The faces of gamblers are 1,000 masks, from the suited elite to the dust-covered construction worker. Their stories seem worlds apart, but the dazzling, disorienting world they all enter has only one name: the game. You must understand this in your bones, in your very soul. You are never in a fair fight with luck, with your own nerve, or with your self-proclaimed skill. You are an actor in a script with a predetermined ending, a script meticulously crafted down to every breath, every heartbeat. And your role? The indispensable tragic hero, destined for ruin. Stop wasting another second debating if the game is rigged. That debate itself is the outermost, most ingenious layer of the trap. It lets you believe you can still spot an edge, crack a code, wasting your energy on phantom patterns. The truth is, today's gambling has evolved into a cold, precise science. Its architects are a global cohort of top psychologists, mathematicians, and data analysts. They have quantified every human weakness, your greed, your fear, your unwillingness to quit, your wishful thinking, into cold data. Upon this foundation, they have built a digital Skinner box that is impossible to escape, physiologically and psychologically. The platform's color schemes, the sound effects of a button press, the rhythm of a deal or a draw, those near-miss moments that make your heart pound, all are the products of countless A/B tests, engineered for a single purpose: to bypass your reason and directly stimulate the primal reward center deep in your brain, flooding it with dopamine. You think you are thinking, but your brain is merely offering its most honest conditioned reflex to these stimuli. You think an hour has passed, but a long night has already been devoured by this black hole, without your notice. In this state, you are not betting money. You are pitting your finite, non-renewable life against a tireless, infallible, precision mincer driven by supercomputers and human frailty. The only variable is when you will be bled dry. Therefore, no matter the form of the game, no matter how high-end or thrilling its packaging, every player who sits at this invisible table is destined for one word: loss. Hearing this, your gut reaction is to argue, "That's too absolute. I've seen people win. I've won several months' salary in minutes myself." Yes, and that is the game's most brilliant, most insidious feature. It never fears you winning. It only fears you not playing, not coming back. It will let you win, even win big enough to create the potent illusion that you can master your own destiny, that you can defy all rules. But you must use what little reason you have left to grasp this. The moment that money hits your account, it is no longer yours. It is a tainted, toxic, temporary asset. You are merely its short-term custodian. Try to recall calmly. When you earned $10,000 through hard work, you planned its use meticulously: savings, loan payments, a gift for family. But when you won $10,000 easily through gambling, what was your first thought? A lavish meal, an immediate purchase of a long-coveted luxury, or unhesitatingly using it as capital for the next, bigger bet. Why the stark difference? Because the money came too easily, too surreally, carries no real-world value. You paid no equivalent in time and sweat, so your subconscious does not recognize it as truly yours. Building your life upon it is like a child building a sandcastle. It may look tall and beautiful, but any real-world storm will wash it away in an instant. It is merely bait, a trial fund for you to lose your entire fortune and life next time, a debt temporarily deposited with you that the house will sooner or later collect with interest, and exorbitant interest at that. You think you are playing against a specific house, but in reality, you are at war with a vast, cold-blooded industrial chain of platform owners, international agents, underground banks, tech developers, and even psychological consultants. In this chain, all you players are just fuel for the ecosystem, replaceable at any moment. Seeing through this brutal reality, the core, gut-wrenching question emerges. How much must one lose to truly stop? The answer lies not in a specific debt figure, but in a psychological bottom line unique and sacred to each person. This line is the final thread connecting them to their identity as a social being, the last territory in their heart that defines their self-worth. Only when this line is ruthlessly breached will they feel a pain that is bone-deep, irreplaceable, and sufficient to shatter their entire psyche. Only then might they be jolted awake from their frenzied, self-hypnotized state. What is your bottom line? If you believe a complete family is the entire meaning of your life's struggle, then only on a late night when you turn the key and find your home not filled with the aroma of food and children's laughter, but with cold, dead silence, When you enter the bedroom and find your wife's clothes cleared from the closet, her vanity bearing only the unfamiliar smudges of makeup you've never seen. When your child's favorite toys have vanished from the living room, leaving only a cold letter signed by a lawyer. Only then will you understand what a broken home truly means. It isn't an argument. It is a silent, complete departure. If you consider the intimacy with your wife and child your last defense against all the world's hardships, then only when you dial that familiar number and hear the system prompt, the user you have dialed has blocked you. When you frantically send messages only to see that red exclamation mark. When the person once closest to you calls from a strange number to discuss, in a calm, emotionless tone, the procedures for dividing assets and visitation rights. Only then will you understand wife and children scattered. That calmness is more lethal than any hysterical screaming. It tells you that love and hope have been personally exhausted by you, and all that remains is the cold machinery of law. If you believe your debt to your parents for raising you is greater than heaven itself and cannot be betrayed, then perhaps only after confessing yet another colossal debt to them, seeing your father, always so stern and strong before you, go gray overnight, sitting alone on the balcony, his hands, arthritic from years of labor, trembling as he calculates his meager pension to see how much he can shoulder for you, seeing your mother, weeping silently while still warming a meal for you in the kitchen. Only then will that scene, a blend of heartbreak and instinctual maternal love, sear your conscience like a red-hot iron, making you understand what you have destroyed. If you value a person's dignity more than life itself, then only when your credit is utterly ruined, when you are penniless and must, for a few hundred for a meal, force a smile and beg from the very person you once despised and publicly humiliated, under their gaze mixed with contempt, pity, and a hint of pleasure, only then will you feel the ultimate shame of your character being crushed, your soul publicly executed. At that moment, you will stop, until that most sacred line in your heart, the one that defines you as human, is crossed. A gambler will never, ever stop. This is not a threat. It is an iron law written in the blood of countless tragedies. However, what is the most terrifying, most tragic existence in this world? It is the gambler who, through repeated self-destruction, has lost his bottom line entirely. His bottom line, like a coastline, is pushed back again and again by the tide of gambling debts until there is no retreat, only a chasm at his feet. His home is broken. He tells himself he can rebuild it with money. His wife leaves. He imagines younger, more beautiful women will line up for him when he makes his comeback. His parents are devastated. He consoles himself that it's temporary, that money will hire the best doctors to cure everything. He lives in a bubble constructed entirely of his own fantasies, completely detached from the real world. Let's look at the language they use, the mental brand they weave for themselves. They don't say win money, but get blood back, a medical term implying they are in a near-fatal state of exsanguination, and gambling is the only life-saving emergency transfusion. They don't say pay off debts, but get ashore, a more deceptive metaphor, painting themselves as a poor soul about to drown in a boundless sea of suffering, and that one earth-shattering all-in is the sole life raft. This language cleverly reframes them from an active wrongdoer to a passive survivor, thus granting themselves deep-seated self-forgiveness. They dismiss all outside advice as facile remarks from those who don't understand my situation. This person's identity has completely merged with the label gambler. He is no longer a person who likes to gamble. He is a gambler. This is the only way he defines his existence. All meaning in his life is reduced to the win or loss of the next bet. He is like an astronaut who has voluntarily severed all ties with Earth, the real world, floating alone in the void, all his pain and pleasure derived solely from the small screen before him. He is not betting his life. His life itself has become a never-ending game with no audience and no winner. What awaits him is not some unknown fate, but a predetermined, desolate, and lonely end. So, I ask you, in the dead of night, turn off your phone, pour a glass of water, and examine yourself as if you were a detached, out-of-body observer. Think, where exactly is your bottom line drawn? If a sentence in this article has pricked your heart like a cold needle, making you feel a long-lost trace of fear, then please, cling to that fear. It may be your last lifeline. If you turn back, all that has passed is but a deep pit on your life's path that left you battered and bruised. No matter how painful, it's a flesh wound. As long as you are alive, As long as you are willing to move forward, the sky will always brighten. If you remain lost in delusion, you are no longer a person who has stumbled. You are a true gambler, walking a dark path to the very end, until the light and heat of your life are utterly consumed by that black hole. What about after quitting? Do those who clawed their way out of the mire relapse? The answer might fill you with despair. Almost 100% will. There will be at least one moment of wavering, one attempt. Why? Because that unwillingness to accept the loss, that thought of, I could have won, is like a chronic virus that has seeped into your marrow and blood. It won't flare up immediately, but it will return when your immunity, willpower, is at its weakest. Especially when your scars haven't fully healed and you are coddled by your family's cautious, almost fawning attitude. When your debts are temporarily settled by the family's joint effort. When you once again have a little disposable income, that thought of winning it back will coil around you like a long dormant ghost. This time, what drives you is no longer simple greed or poverty. The real reason is the stark contrast between the plainness and tedium of normal life and the extreme, condensed, roller coaster experience of the gambling table. A truly wealthy person has witnessed the cruelty and risk of business in accumulating their fortune. They have established solid values and disdain such low-level speculation based purely on luck. A truly poor person, having struggled at the bottom of society, knows the value of every penny and believes more in what their own hands can create. The ones most likely to fall into this trap and struggle repeatedly are precisely the so-called ordinary people or middle-class families whose lives seem stable, with a decent job and some savings, but who are anxious about the future and hungry for wealth. Their lives lack major waves but also hold no hope of overnight riches. They fear falling back into poverty and desperately yearn to leapfrog into the luxurious lifestyles seen on social media. This anxiety of being stuck in the middle is the best opiate, making them the most susceptible to the myth of getting rich quick, believing they are the chosen one selected by fate. Their end is often more tragic than that of someone with nothing, for what they lose is a life that could have been stable and happy. So please remember the old saying, always think of times of scarcity when you have plenty, and don't wait until you have nothing to think of what you once had. The mundane, somewhat boring happiness you scorn today may be a luxury you couldn't get back tomorrow even if you begged on your knees. So, let's answer the ultimate question. What does a relapsed gambler truly lose? The first time you lost money, your house, your car, these are material things. Though painful, they can theoretically be earned back if you're willing to fight for it. But when you have escaped death once, seen the face of hell, repented to your entire family, and sworn the most solemn oaths, and then you choose to jump back in, what you lose is on an entirely different plane. It is intangible yet fatal. First, you lose your family's very last shred of trust and hope in you as a person. The first time, they saw you as having made a mistake or fallen ill, and they tried to help you with a rescuer's mentality. The second time, they will believe from the bottom of their hearts that your heart is rotten, that you are incorrigible. Their attitude will shift from rescue to vigilance and abandonment. Second, you lose the fragile self-esteem and character you painstakingly rebuilt from the ruins. You have proven to the world, and to yourself, that your promises are worthless, your repentance a mere performance to get through a crisis. You forfeit the right to tell a prodigal son returns story. After the first failure, you could cast yourself as a tragic victim. The second time, you nail yourself to the pillar of shame as beyond saving. You lose the right to defend yourself. Even you can no longer find an excuse to forgive yourself. Most importantly, you lose a normal perception of the value of time. Once you are accustomed to winning or losing months or even years' worth of salary in seconds, you can no longer tolerate the slowness of earning a meager income through 8 hours of work a day, 30 days a month. Honest labor becomes ridiculous and meaningless in your eyes. Your value system is completely destroyed. Time loses its normal scale for you. This is the deepest injury, making it impossible for you to return to any normal social track. Finally, you lose a social resource called hope. Your relapse not only destroys you but also makes your family and friends doubt humanity itself. The emotion, money, and hope they invested in you are all for naught. You become a black hole of hope, consuming everything around you. Your story will become a living, negative example they use to teach the next generation that some people just can't be saved. Every person who has crawled out of a gambling den, having cheated death, has stood at the edge of a cliff and stared into the swirling darkness of the abyss. Yet, as long as a breath remains, there is a chance for final escape. But what I want to ask is this. For those who have escaped death, when the debts are cleared, the wounds have healed, and life has returned to that quiet, even somewhat dull peace. When, in the middle of a bored and lonely night, they once again recall the heart-pounding, blood-pumping moments at the table, the feeling of being the king of the world, will that feeling, that very poison that once destroyed them, appear in their eyes with a twisted, fatal, and unparalleled beauty? Will they still be able to resist that gentle call from hell, whispering, "Just one more time, only once?" This is a question no one can answer for you, and the answer will determine whether you have truly escaped death, or have merely gained a brief respite before your next sprint towards death.